Hey everyone. Hey everyone, welcome along to this very impromptu stream. We're going to be doing some Formula E qualifying watch along. I'm just going to check audio real quick. Hey everyone, welcome along to this. Okay, cool. It is working. Sweet. Again, welcome to this very impromptu watch along for the Formula E-Prix in Mexico City. They're doing qualifying right now, so that's what I've got going on. Group A is out. And excuse the cats as they cross the table. But yeah, I might even do the E-Prix that's later on today at around 3 o'clock. We may even stream that live. But this is qualifying, so if you're new to Formula E qualifying, different to Formula One and NASCAR, what they do, they'll go out in two groups, Group A and B, split the field perfectly in half. And then after the two groups go, they'll get the top four times from each group. So top four from Group A, top four from Group B, and then do a playoff kind of bracket for qualifying where they have quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals to determine the starting positions for the E-Prix that is later on today. I know local time for me, it's around 3 o'clock. So like I said, we might be streaming that as well. And again, also sorry if you can hear other stuff going on around the room. Like I said, this is very impromptu coming up for this one. So thank you so much for tuning in. We're just waiting for the first times to come in. Like I said, this is a very impromptu stream. So we got right now Jake Dennis, Taylor Barnard, Nato, and John Eric Verne are moving on to the duels right now. The first lap. So I normally do two. I was watching qualifying for the Sao Paulo E-Prix, and they'll normally do a couple warm up laps and then really do one push lap at the end. So we probably aren't even seeing the best laps yet. And then we have Ericsson, DeVries, Mortara, Nico Muller, Cassidy, and DaCosta right now running out the top 10. And after these duels, it'll go by position or your best time will determine. It's not necessarily if you're in Group A, you get positions one, you get position the odd number spots, and Group B will get the even. Though I believe they will just kind of go by laps, your best lap overall. But 5 minutes left, or sorry, 5:50 left in Group A. Laps still coming in. Taylor Barnard currently in the pits right now. Again, this is for the 2026 Mexico City E-Prix, and they're talking about to Ericsson. They're talking about the uh, push laps that are coming up. Still kind of that order. No big changes yet. Mortara and DeVries have moved down, but I'm assuming they just. I'm assuming nobody's done a true push lap yet. See Taylor Barnard looks like, or no, it's Pascal Verline getting ready for Group B. You can see that on screen right now. 5 minutes left in Group A. Still waiting on final times to come in for the qualifying. Best time right now is Jake Dennis with a 1:15. Oh, never mind. Nato from Nissan 1:13.6. So here come the first true times coming in. Got some three cars weaving in the back there. So I think they're waiting on their major run. As Ericsson with a 1:13.194 looks like to be the first true lap that we get to see what these Formula E cars have got for them. Right now it is Ericsson, Nato, Mortara, and DaCosta moving on to the duels. DeVries and Mueller are fifth and sixth outside looking in right now. 4 minutes left, as they are at the Autodromo of Hermanos Rodriguez, which of course Formula One goes to. Different layout, but it is cool to kind of see this unique layout for Formula E. As our first look at also the stadium section is different in Formula E than it is in Formula One. Kind of do a more baseball diamond style shape, and then they take the the last corner. They go all the way around the old stadium. It's looking at all the team principals for the cars that are currently out. Like I said, I have two cats and they're currently fighting right now. My wife and I do. So, yeah, if you hear them in the background, it's okay. Cars currently out. Yeah, they're fighting right now. So sorry if you hear that in the background. 3 minutes left to go. Still Nato and Dennis looking at their times. They're on push laps. Nato is going purple 2 seconds, 2 seconds up on. I'm assuming they're tracking on Ericsson. So get to see their push laps. Everyone's purple so far. DaCosta purple in sector one as Nato is in the stadium. 240 left to go. So they've got probably about 2 or 3 laps here. And again, this is different to Formula One. In Formula One, you do an out lap, a push lap, and an in lap, whereas in Formula E, you try to stay out for the full 10-minute first part here. As Nato's about to be the first of the three that they're following across the line, coming out of the final corner, moves up 6 seconds ahead. So yeah, they're on their push laps now. Dennis moves up 106.4. DaCosta 0.131 behind him. Mortara moves up to second place. So I think they're pushing now. Times are down at least 6 seconds to the first good recorded time across the line. Muller doesn't improve, but maybe he's on a warm up. Actually, disregard, he does. 0.038, 3/100ths of a second behind Dennis there. Dennis with a 106.402 is currently the best time in Group A. So right now it is Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Eduardo Mortara, and Felix DaCosta moving on to the duels from Group A. And Nick Cassidy and NATO are just below the dual time. Right now, the cutoff time is 106.623. I'm sorry, I'm having a squint at the time, so I apologize. Nick Cassidy looks like he's 7/1000ths of a second behind DaCosta, so he moved up to fifth. And 1 minute left to go, so we may be seeing everyone coming out of the stadium, looking to see if they can push for this final lap. We got some drivers coming up to their final flying lap here. So these results will be final after this lap as we have the Nissan of NATO beginning. See if he goes purple or anything. Purple or if he improves. Also following Jake Dennis, he's on another flying lap. As they go to the far end of the speedway, NATO is green. They had minus 0.116. I'm assuming I don't know if that's their personal or whatever their next lineup is. So I don't know if that was to the dual positions or if that was compared to his best lap. This is like I've been following Formula E kind of in the background. Like whenever I finish watching all the other series, I'd watch Formula E, but this year I'm intently following it this year. So I don't know like what the broadcast does in terms of deter like what that gap is to, but coming across the line, NATO does not improve his position, stays fifth. Jake Dennis does not improve his time, but he's in first, so he should be moving on to the duels. Nobody up next. Nick DeFries is the next card to see if he moves up or down, gets you to the duels, crosses the line, stays seventh. Ericsson on the green, stays sixth. Taylor Barnard in the back, moves up to third place from ninth to third, knocks out DaCosta there. DaCosta's already completed a lap, so he will not move on. Nick Cassidy's the last driver who could potentially do something. He moves up to seventh, but he does not move on. So it looks like after the 10 drivers of Group A, Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Taylor Barnard, Eduardo Mortara moving up to the duels from Group A. So coming up next is Group B. Again, it's the same thing. 10 minutes, 10 drivers. Top four move on to the duels. And that'll be really good Group A there, Nick Cassidy, excuse me, Taylor Barnard came out of nowhere, ninth fastest time to third. As we're now in the in between Group A and B. I am looking to stream the E-Prix later on, potentially again. But there is about a severe weather about to come through my area right around race time. So if the internet holds up and we've still got power, that's the plan to stream hopefully the E-Prix later on. But still in between the groups, like I said, this is a very impromptu setup. I'm on my laptop. I'm not on my normal PC, but I love this computer, by the way. It's a Acer Nitro V15. It does really good. I did see problems about the RAM. Yeah, I probably should upgrade the RAM eventually, but right now it's doing really good and it's streaming really good. And the mic, it's a Acer Nitro V15. The mic is straight the mic from the computer. So yeah, like I said, it's a really good laptop for streaming. So like I said, very impromptu, so I don't have any of the graphics loaded up or anything. But wait on Group B to get going here again. 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the duels. Still, wait. I guess it's a 10-minute gap like you have in between sessions. So Group A classification: Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Taylor Barnard, Eduardo Mortara. Fastest time of 106.492, only 4 tenths of a second to the dual position. And then fifth through 10th right now is Antonio Felix DaCosta, Norman Nato, Nick Cassidy, John Eric Verne, Joel Erickson, and Nick DeVries. So Nick DeVries right now, 10th place. Again, it goes on overall time, doesn't necessarily go on your position in your group. So Group B could be overall slower and give Nick DeVries a better starting position. But as of right now, Nick DeVries is currently in last place for the E-Prix. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to the Pitch Straight. I'm hoping to be doing a lot more live streaming like this in 2026. Qualifying Group B will start in 1 minute's time. So, but yeah, looking to do more streaming like this in 2026. Not just some NASCAR Formula One, but as I'm doing today, Formula E. May do IndyCar. May do some lower series as well. One of my favorites, actually, I don't know because I don't know if they do it live, but if one of the big things for this channel this year and like kind of a motto for this channel going forward is I want to make motorsports fun and accessible for everyone because there are so many that you can choose from. Not even just in the United States, because in the US you have the NASCAR circuit, you have the IndyCar circuit. Formula One is now becoming very popular. But looking at Group B entry list, they're Oliver Rowland, Pascal Verline, Maximilian Gunther, Sebastian Buemi, Zane Maloney, Felipe Drugovich, Pepe Marti, and there were three other names at the bottom that I didn't catch. But I don't know, watch along I might do if they actually push this out live. I don't know if they're live, but I know they put the races up. It's the Mazda MX-5 Cup. If you've never seen that series, look it up on YouTube when it comes out this year. They should. I'm assuming I haven't looked. I looked at the schedule, but it's been a while. But they do a race at Daytona. That is genuinely one of the biggest races, or maybe not the biggest, but one of my favorite races of the year is Mazda MX-5 because they're not powerful at all, those cars compared to other series. But the because Daytona is, of course, the oval, you have the infield, but on the oval part of the track, those MX-5s can stay next to each other, and it becomes pack racing on a road course with those MX-5s. So if they do that race live, and if I'm available, I'm seriously considering doing a watch along for that because that series is a lot of fun. But Group B is officially out on track. Again, they're going to be doing their warm ups and then they'll do their pushes. So the first 5 or so minutes here going to be we'll see times, but these aren't going to be the times. As we're getting a good drone shot of the uh, stadium section. I believe that was an old baseball field. I could be wrong, but cars on there, push laps. Oliver Rowland. So you know the sequence, focus on the brakes and tires. So they've got the rhythm that they want to do here. They may do two two warm-ups, a push, two warm-ups, a push, anything like that. So looking at the team principal for Nissan, as Oliver Rowland, last year's Formula E world champion, is in this group. No true times have been set. This will be the first time that they cross the line with a time, but again, they're not. Nobody's going to be on their pushes quite yet. As one of my, as one of my cats has a zoomies right now. But yeah, so just waiting on these first push laps. 7.5 to go in Group B. Looking at the stadium section, looks like there might be a portion of Nissan. Get another look in the garage at Joel Eriksson. As Maximilian Gunther crosses the line. So first official time again. These aren't the important times yet. Verline and Evans have crossed the line. So these are, at the very least, these are times on the board. Gunther, Evans, Roland, Drugovic, disregard. Gunther, Marty, Evans, and Roland are currently in the dual positions. Degrassi and Maloney in. And they showed Joel Eriksson, who I thought was in this session, but he may not be. So we're looking at Dan Ticktum. Hope he was in last session because Dick Ticktum hasn't crossed the line yet. As Idris Elba's at the track. That's cool. 6 minutes, 6:20 left to go in Group B qualifying. As there's a car entering pit lane. May have been Ticktum there. Could be wrong. Nope, I was wrong. That was Gunther, Maximilian Gunther coming into the pit. As Dan Ticktum takes second place. Again, nobody's really done a push yet, so Gunther, Ticktum, Marty, and Maloney are in the next group here into the duels. As you got 2x2, as Gunther, I have the audio on low, but I haven't heard what the issue is yet. As they are going to lift the car up. They're working on the right front. I don't know if that's going to do anything. May have had a puncture in the right front, or the rotating tires. I'm not sure. Again, have the audio on low. And 5 minutes left in Group B. They're still focusing on Gunther in the pits. I think he's about to roll out though. Checking something on that right front tire. Not really sure what, but it got the approval now. So you would think Gunther's going to be out on the circuit at any second. But may just be waiting to just get out there, do a outlap, push, and in. Cars are still waving, still seeing nobody on the push. Right now it is Degrassi, Gunther, Roland, Maloney, Buemi. Okay, so we have one more prep lap. So Buemi at least one more prep lap. Maloney. And looking at these Formula E machines going around the circuit here. As looks like we are finally getting our first push lap of the session. Out push, cool push, as Dan Ticktum looks like he's going to be the first official lap, or not first official, but first push lap of the session as he's going through turn 2 and 3. As he's coming around to the opposite end of the course. And Tictum is pushing purple sector 1. Verline 1.32 behind a previous best. Roland minus 1.31 behind a previous best. As Tictum's in the stadium section, he's purple on both sectors. Nobody's been able to beat one of his times yet. And coming across the line, Dan Tictum putting the first lap in of the session. Crossed the line, 106.535 it appears to be again. I'm having to squint a little bit to see. And Verline across the line, P2, 27 hundredths or 27 tenths behind. Mitch Evans moves up to second. Dan Tickup's still the fastest. Felipe Drugovich moves up to fifth. Buemi moves up to the top, 106.328. Drugovich moves up to sixth. Verline, Degrassi up to fifth. So put their first push laps are coming in now. 150 left to go in the group. And Sebastian Buemi sits at the top with Tictum, Evans, and Roland for the first push laps. And Gunther is who the broadcast is focusing on at the moment. Looking at Penske Autosports team principal, Phil Charles there. Group B, 50 seconds left to go. Dan Ticktum just crossed the line for what will be his final flying lap of the group. Looks like he made a mistake coming out of turn 1. May have hit the wall there with the back left. He's moving slow. May see a yellow flag here with 30 seconds left to go. This may be devastating for those who are on a lap at the far end of the circuit. 20 seconds left to go. And these laps will end the group. As we're looking at a replay, what happened to Titum? I think he just got too much coming out of turn 1. Sliding. Didn't actually hit anything, but I think he just abandoned the lap after that as the timer is out. So these will be the finishing times. Hey, you may have hit the wall on the replay on the onboard. On the offboard, it didn't look like it. Crossed the line. Pascal Verline only managed 6. Oliver Rowland coming into the pits. He's not going to finish his lap. Let's see if he can make it. So far, no improvements. These are finishing times. Looks like this didn't get timed well for anybody. As the top 4 have moved on so far. Gunther, 5th place. Degrassi not across the line. Maloney. So it appears, as everyone has crossed the line, it is Sebastian Buemi, Dan Ticktum, Mitch Evans, and Oliver Rowland moving on to the duels. So that was close. And excuse me, I'm going to be setting up Twitch real quick. Might as well go live on Twitch while we're here. for the duels at least. Sorry, I'm just setting this up real quick. Fortunately, we're on commercial break. I'm hoping that the Twitch stream will fire up. We're about to find out, I guess. It says it's streaming. Is it though? Yes, it is. Sweet. We're on Twitch now as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Whether you're on YouTube or on Twitch. So thank you so much for tuning in. So, all right. So we are just waiting on the final group here to start, Group B. Again, not on in the US, it's on Roku channel if you want to watch along there with us as well. So, so we're finally back to forming the E coverage. So now this is going to be the duels. Looks like we're in between coverage here. So let me know in the live chat or in the comments below who you think your top three for the Mexico City E-Prix are going to be. I know we're about to be on the duels, but put it in the chat below who you think is going to win the Mexico City E-Prix for 2026. Second race for Formula E, as we're looking at who moved on from Group A. Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Taylor Barnard, and Eduardo Mortara moved up from Group A. Again, I believe they have 10, 15, 20 minutes like they do in Formula One in between these sessions. I don't believe for the duels themselves, I don't believe that they move anything around there in terms of time. And Group B, Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Taylor Barnard. Oh, sorry, that's still Group A. So, sorry for that. Still I was waiting to see who moves on from Group B. The list of names. Yeah, put in the comments below who you think is going to win Formula E-Prix. Also, who's gonna win the duels here? Kareem Chandok now. I think they're doing an onboard. I believe this is Verline. Looking at his lap, looking at how close he's getting to the exit of turn one barrier. You can see them running through the grass. Coming through the sweeping right of turn two. Turn three, left-hander. Seeing the lines that he's taking, looking at Dan Ticktum on the inside. Going to the double right of 4 and 5. As he's kind of dominating the car into the corner. Taking a wide line on the end and trying to get as much throttle as he can on the out as we're about to move into the stadium section. Looking at his braking. And then to the triple left. You could say this is like a turkey 8, 9, 10, 11 situation. Sorry, quad left. Nope, triple left, and then it goes to the right, and then they're outside the stadium for the final long sweeper. And you can see him holding to the left. Doesn't really hit the apex until pit entry, and then straightens the car out for the long straightaway. And we're looking at just replaying his in lap. And looking at Group B, Sebastian Buemi, Dan Ticktum, Mitch Evans, and Oliver Rowland moving on to the duels. And looking at a helicopter shot of the stadium. And looking at a reverse shot. And quarterfinal one's coming up. Taylor Barnard versus Nico Muller. The Swiss versus the Brit. Penske against Muller. And we're about to get going with quarterfinal number one. So they'll just send them out here in just a second. And then immediately they'll send out quarterfinals 2, 3, and 4. And leaving the pits for this lap. So it's just the out lap and then they'll go. No warm-ups here. And the duels. We were looking at the car of Muller. We just said on the broadcast, Penske versus Porsche. And we're looking at stadium section. Looking at the best exit because this sets up the long right-hander, which sets up the main straight. A little bit of a wiggle there coming onto the start-finish straight for the first time in the duels. We're about to find out the first driver who moves on to the semis. Taylor Barnard takes the line. And Google Gemini saying 104.960 is the potential fastest lap here. As Barnard moves into turn three, Nico Muller crosses the line in quarterfinal number one. Muller up. 2/100ths of a second, 0.023 through the first timing, 0.46 as we're looking at Taylor Barnard going into the stadium section. Mueller up 0.171. This looks like Mueller's to lose right now, even though Barnard is the first car in the Penske. Going through the stadium section, Nico Mueller should be showing up in that stadium section right about now. Oh, but Mueller lost some time. He's now only 0.01 at the last timing loop, as Nico Mueller is now in the stadium section. Barnard picking it back up. That looked like that was Mueller's lap to lose across the line. 105.075 for Taylor Barnard as Nico Mueller 0.142. So he lost some time in that second sector there. Coming across the line, Mueller's pushing, gaining 0.05 seconds at the line. 0.137. Taylor Barnard moving on to the semifinals there. Mueller looked like he had that lap, but must have lost time in sector 2 and lost that quarterfinal. He does not move on. We're going to see where his next starting spot is. Looking at Taylor Barnard, I think we're just looking at the lap and the undulations of the car as it comes. I believe that is coming out of the stadium. Quarterfinal number 2, Eduardo Mortara versus Jake Dennis. Mahindra versus Andretti. Should be, when we see them on screen next, should be coming across the line. And they are. Mortara starts. He's the first car. A little bit of a bump out of exit of turn 1. Jake Dennis is crossing the line. So we're looking at his onboard. As Mortara coming around turn 4 or 5. Don't have a timing update yet on the leaders so far. Barely Mortara, 0.00881 thousandths of a second to Eduardo Mortara, which extends to 0.163. Coming out of turn 4, turn 5. Jake Dennis taking the really wide line, catching as Mortara is in the stadium section. It's just now exiting as Dennis is entering the stadium section. Mortara, 0.2 of a second up on Dennis. At the last timing loop, we could see Jake Dennis catching. He does. 0.04, 105.145 for Eduardo Mortara as we're now on board with Jake Dennis as he exits the stadium. Going across the long right-hander, 0.177, losing time. Coming to the line, 105.145 to beat. Jake Dennis crosses the line. Last timing loop check, 0.089. It goes Eduardo Mortara's way in quarterfinal number 2. Looking at the Andretti crew there. It's about to head to quarterfinal number 3. Looking at, looks like this is Jake Dennis, I believe. Looking at the exit, coming onto the flying lap. As we move to Mitch Evans versus Dan Ticktum, Jaguar Racing for Mitch Evans against Dan Ticktum. Should see him crossing the line to start the lap. And it begins. Mitch Evans, lead car going into turn 1. In about 10 seconds, we'll see Dan Ticktum cross the line for quarterfinal number 3. Maybe we'll see the onboard again like they did last time, but we may just focus with Mitch Evans here. And there's Dan Ticktum. I was about to say no timing updates yet, but he is starting the lap. 0.002 at the first timing loop there. So very close so far. And then there's the loss. Dan Ticktum down 0.196 on timing loop 2, but he is catching as Mitch Evans is down the stadium section. Coming out of the stadium as Dan Ticktum is about to turn into the stadium. Ticktum is catching. I don't believe the second driver has won one of these duels yet. The first drivers have won every single one so far. coming across the line for Mitch Evans as Dan Ticktum is now .006 ahead the last time we looked, 105.148 or 148 for Mitch Evans. Dan Ticktum leaves the stadium, losing some ground though, .075 at the last timing loop. Coming across the final turn, passing pin entry, .087, sliding out of the final corner and across the line. First driver still winning. Mitch Evans wins quarterfinal number 3. Now going to the last quarterfinal here in Formula E. Excuse me for just a second. I do need to get my charger. But it is Mitch Evans moving on into this final group. Into the semifinals, as I say, not final group. This quarterfinal number 4 is about to begin. I'm having to untangle my corn spaghetti over here. But I will do my best to let you know what the results are. As Oliver Rowland versus Sebastian Buemi. First timing loop. Buemi is about to enter turn 1. And Buemi is far behind .182 at the moment. And Buemi is down 3/10. This is the biggest gap we've seen so far. And Buemi is catching, though. Across the line, Oliver Rowland, 105.246. As Buemi is now leaving the stadium, coming into the long right-hander. Going to find out what the semifinals are after this. Buemi gains on Oliver Rowland. Coming out of the pits and across the line. This should be Buemi's to lose. And finally, we have a second car lead the duel in the quarterfinal. It goes Sebastian Buemi's way. And it is Sebastian Buemi moving on to the semifinals. As the fans have turned out for the E-Prix. And Sebastian Buemi with Envision Racing wins. Looking at his car. And just looking at the aggression that he's going into the stadium section with. And again, the E-Prix is in about 4 hours' time. Again, if weather holds over over in my neck of the woods, might be live for that. As we're on board in the helmet cam, seeing the drivers work and immediately start cooling down the car. As there's a car going into the weighbridge. I believe that is Buemi. .3 tenths. Just some radio communication there between Buemi and his team. As we're now in the gap between the quarters and the semis. And looking at the quarterfinals, moving on, we have Eduardo Mortara versus Taylor Barnard and Mitch Evans and Sebastian Buemi for the semifinals. Fastest time was Barnard with a 105.075, was the quickest of that quarterfinal session. And Google Gemini was predicting that it would be a 109, 104.9. So if we're to believe that, there's still some time to gain. Just looking at, I believe that is Oliver Rowland. So we're still in the waiting for semifinal number one, looking at Mortara. Mortara in his car, wheels off, just waiting to go for the semifinal. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Pit Straight, whether it's live or the VOD. And if you are watching on the other platforms that this did not go live on, go check us out on Twitch and YouTube. We will be live there. We may be live on Facebook in the future. Not quite sure about that yet, but definitely check out our Twitch page and our YouTube channel for live streams just like this. Maybe do some gaming live streams as well with the world of motorsport. But Taylor Barnard can shave 1/10 off his earlier lap time, primarily tightening up early sector 2. Again, Google Gemini AI. Throwing hints on the broadcast for Formula E. But yeah, if you're watching on one of our other platforms, check us out on Twitch and YouTube because that's where we will be live during these events. Uh, we'll be live on, well, these videos will go out on the other platforms tape delayed by a week. So in exactly 1 week's time, you will see this stream on our Rumble and Facebook and our VODs channel. But if you're on YouTube and Twitch, they're right here for you to enjoy right now. As we're still waiting on semifinals. I'm looking up the qualifying format because I know how it works. I just don't know how much time in between each thing there is. I'm looking at it real quick because I am curious about that. It looks like we're about to get going with semifinal two. And looking again at the quarterfinal times, Mortara versus Barnard for semifinal one, Evans who blew me for two. Again, Taylor Barnard, fastest time 105.075. Slowest time that session was 105.246 by Roland, but all the times were within two tenths of each other. So semifinal one, Mortara versus Barnard. And they're about to get going for semifinal number one. And looking at the first semifinal, so this will determine who gets the shot at pole position. And we're already looking at Mitch Evans, his radio as he goes out to the pit exit. And first across the line, by the way, I am on severe weather watch, just so you know. So if I'm looking distracted, that's why. But everything's good so far. And here we go. Eduardo Mortara across the line. Taylor Barnard, we should be seeing him coming up any second now. And out of turn 3 comes Mortara as Barnard should be crossing the line, and he does. We're on his own board as he enters turn 1. I'll let you know the timing as soon as we know it. Barnard up 0.042 on the first timing loop. That's where you get the duel in the duel. Looking at Mortara entering the stadium section, Barnard is about to enter turns 4 and 5. Let's see, he takes a wide 4 so he can hit the throttle coming out of 5. And Mortara leads the stadium section. Barnard 0.058 behind, now 0.164 as he enters the stadium. Let's see if we can make up time there as Mortara about to come across the line. A little bit of a slide coming into the main straight, the pit straight, coming across the line, 105.070. Nearing Barnard's time in the first quarterfinal, but Barnard is struggling coming out of the stadium section. Car was moving left and right, sliding about. Halfway through the final turn, hitting the pit straight, catching Mortara. Is he going to make the finals? He does! 0.021 for Taylor Barnard. Just makes it into the final. So, Evans or Buemi, who will be meeting Taylor Barnard in the final? So it'll be very close here, and we'll find out in just a second. And looking at replays, as we are now on semifinal 2, and we are already in the lap. Mitch Evans leads Buemi, as Buemi should be crossing the line at any second now. I'm surprised we don't see. He is going 0.147. I'm surprised we don't have the double box with Buemi. But he is catching. There we go. We see him coming into turn 4. Assuming he's going to take the wide line like everybody else. A little bit of a twitch there going into turn 4. Catching Mitch Evans, who should be in the stadium by now. Probably about halfway through the stadium is Mitch Evans. Yes, he is. Just passing by where attack mode will be later on in the E-Prix. Coming out of the stadium. Buemi, 0.001 going in. And we're about to find out who is in the final. Coming across the line, Mitch Evans with a 105.3. Will that be enough? As Buemi exits the stadium, hugging the left wall, coming to the center of the track. A little bit of a twitch. 0.141 coming across the line. Sebastian Buemi moves on. That may have been the first lap, sub 104. About to get the timing in just a second. Wait to see the time come up on the screen. Sorry, keep scratching my eye. It is Buemi confirmed. Moving on. Again, this final will set up the pole position for the E-Prix in Mexico City. Will be at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. as we're waiting for the cars to come into the pits. We're looking at replays of the cars exiting the stadium. See them getting loose under the power of these Formula E machines, the Gen 3 Evo. And others already talk of the Gen 4. I'm assuming, I don't know if it'll come out this year. I'm assuming it wouldn't, as we're looking at Wumi in the weighbridge again. So this will be. So they're still talking on the radio. And quarterfinal, overseeing the bracket again. So it is Eduardo Mortara versus, excuse me, Taylor Barnard versus Vacherie Wimi. 1:05.049, quickest semifinal time. The first semifinal was overall faster than the second. Although that doesn't mean anything going into the finals here, but good thing to note. So does Wimi versus Barnard going into the finals, which should be happening any second here. Get another look at the fans who showed up for the Mexico City E-Prix. And just a good drone look of the stadium. And we're about to get going for the final. So we are in the last little waiting period of this to determine who will be in the top three or the top two, excuse me. And I apologize also if the internet starts struggling in and out here because, like I said, there is some severe weather about to come through the area. So hopefully we'll be able to do the final, but if not, you'll see it on tape delay. But kind of just looking at the cars. So we're waiting on Barnard versus Buemi in the finals. And so thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see these live, again, go over to YouTube and Twitch. If you're watching on one of the other platforms on tape delay, go check them out over there. And we're 3 minutes from the start of the final, so it looks like it's about 7 minutes between the end of the session and into the new one. So that's good to know. Still looking at some laps and looking at these cars coming out of the stadium, making that right, trying to turn into the pits. We see them getting loose, or I guess as you would call it in this world, oversteer. In the NASCAR world, you'd call it getting loose coming out of the corner. So I'd say we're at about the 2 minute mark to getting going. Also, if you want to keep support us, go over to YouTube, go to the Pit Straight VODs. We do have a VOD channel as well. You can go over there and check that out. And then go follow us on X, Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube, follow and subscribe on Twitch for more motorsports content and not even just watch alongs. I am planning on doing gaming streams in the future as well. So be sure to follow along for all of that good stuff coming as we are a minute and a half from the start of the finals. This will determine who grabs pole position for the Mexico City E-Prix. Should be seeing the cars on the exit of pits here any second. And one last look at the bracket. So Barnard had to go through Muller and Mortara, Wemme, Rowland, and Evans to get to the final. And now, in a minute time, they're going to be facing off to see who grabs that coveted pole position for the E-Prix itself happening later today. And there we go. Buemi versus Barnard, Envision Racing versus Penske. Swiss driver versus British driver here to determine pole position. So we look at the final, wait on board with Barnard, waiting for the green light at the end of the pit. Buemi has the lead. He's the first car out, and then followed by Barnard. Green light on the pit. The finals are about to begin. You get to see the outlaps as Barnard, looking through the helmet, rolls to the spot, waiting for the green light for him. And there it is. So, warm up lap, and then the lap begins officially. Barnard versus Buemi. Buemi in the lead. First car that we'll see him coming into the stadium section as Barnard comes into the tight 4 and 5. As looking at a replay of Barnard from one of his quarterfinal or semifinal laps, they were just seeing the car moving through the corner. Looking at potential track limits, but I think it's okay. But you do got to watch out for that in the session. As we're still seeing replay, even though Buemi has probably started his lap by now, or if it's not, he's very close. As we are looking at Barnard, Buemi is coming around the final corner to begin his lap to determine pole position for the 2026 Mexico City E-Prix for Formula E, race number 2 for the series. As Buemi coming out of the turn, Barnard should be starting his lap any second now. Buemi into turn 3. As good exit for Barnard, very close to the barriers. Definitely pushing more. Buemi 2/10 behind Barnard as Buemi is catching. And here goes Sebastian Buemi into the stadium section as we do have the onboard of Taylor Barnard, the second car, as he goes into the stadium section. I think this is the closest that the two cars have been. Oh, Barnard may have hit the exit going into the stadium. On the left, his car seems to be going good. Doesn't seem to stop him. 2.262 up on Buemi. As Buemi coming out of the final corner, Buemi across the line. Barnard out of the stadium, 105.2. We could be seeing a 104 time here as Barnard almost 3/10 ahead. And, oh, slides out. May have broke track limits. Don't know yet if that lap time will be deleted. That could be Barnard, though. They are giving it to him. Taylor Barnard with pole. I'm going to keep it live for just a second just to see if they will delete the lap time because I believe all 4 wheels were off. I know in Formula 1 they're very strict about it, but I don't know about Formula E. But cars were off. And Penske celebrating, so that should be Barnard with the pole for the Formula E Prix in Mexico City. I'm going to wait for the final classification. This may not be official yet, but get a good look at it. And they're talking still. And still waiting. I don't know if there's any word, but Penske celebrating. Barnard should be walking with the pole. And so just waiting to confirm. Race control, car 77. Barnard, lap time 10 and 17. Deleted for track limits. So did Barnard just lose the pole? I'm going to turn the TV up a little bit. So is it Barnard pole or second? Because that is all four wheels all over the white line. Yeah, that's definitely all four off. So this may be going to Wemmy. Yeah, they're talking on the broadcast like that is lap time deleted. So we may see Sebastian Buemi on the pole rather than Taylor Barnard. And I believe that was officially from the FIA. So that could be Buemi's team is celebrating. So I believe that is going to be a pole position for Buemi instead of Barnard. They are talking in Penske. Could see an appeal lodge, but I'm just waiting on the final confirmation and then I'll end the stream. But it could have been centimeters off. So lap time is deleted for Barnard. So that could mean Sebastian Buemi on the pole. So Buemi on the radio, they are confirming to Buemi that it is pole. So again, I'm just waiting for them to show that final classification. So I am going to end the stream here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, we should be live for maybe live. I'm not going to commit to it yet for the E-Prix. Again, weather coming through the area that I live in. So we'll see. Uh, if we do go up later, they are giving Wimmy the pole position. So that is Wimmy P1. Barnard should be P2. So thank you so much for tuning in here to the Pit Straight. Again, we'll be live later. You may be seeing the wind. Oh, you may not be able to, but there's the wind starting to pick up behind me. So thank you so much for tuning in to here on the Pit Straight. If you're watching on the VOD and you want to see these live, be sure to go onto Twitch and YouTube on our live channels. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to see you soon here on the internet.